Family Skeptical, Parenting Through Non-Belief.
We're a married atheist couple raising two wonderful, strange children. We ask big questions, dissect weird parenting moments, and examine how society ignores or misrepresents families like ours. If you're any stripe of non-believer who's involved in raising children, welcome. You are our people.
Our kids have heard all our swears, but yours might not have. So be thoughtful if there are young people listening with you. Pops.
Hi, Moms.
This is going to be a very special episode in a lot of different ways.
Oh, yeah, it will be.
So first, it's going to be late. If you're listening, you already know that. If you even pay attention to our incredibly strange every 3 weeks release schedule. But yeah, we just moved back to the States and we only found our recording equipment yesterday.
Good times.
And yours isn't working, so you're recording without a mic. So
Yeah, it's a magic of Hollywood.
So we're going to try to keep it short on this one and then get back on schedule. But it just is nice to be recording again. So
it really is.
Yeah. Slowly clawing our way up the mountainside towards some sort of normality. I don't know. It's going to take a while. But the first thing I wanted to talk about, one thing we're really, really excited about is kind of right before we embarked on the whole move adventure, we finished our training sessions with the Creator Accountability Network. And have we even talked about this before?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So the Creator Accountability Network, we might have after going to the American Atheist Convention because they were there.
Right.
But they are an amazing organization that was formed to help give listeners and fans a way to be heard if they feel like one of the creators that they listen to has either acted inappropriately or said something on their podcast that was harmful. And so what they are doing is working both to educate creators to try to avoid that in the future, but also to give listeners a place to reach out. Because obviously with small podcasts like ours, like it's just you and me, right?
Yep.
So if we do something harmful, no one's going to want to reach out to us and say, hey, I mean, maybe somebody would. We would certainly appreciate it.
I would hope so, yeah.
But I can totally understand how somebody would feel incredibly uncomfortable doing that. And
Sure.
And also, like, we're a married couple. We love each other very much. So it also wouldn't be like somebody could, somebody probably, if they didn't feel comfortable reaching out to me, they probably wouldn't feel comfortable reaching out to you and saying,
probably not.
Mom's was awful. So, and we have one email address. Anyways, you can see the issues. So they give people a voice for that. And then also, they also support people where, like, if you're at a conference and happen to meet a creator that you care about and they do something untoward, it gives people a place to reach out in those circumstances as well. So as part of going through this program on this episode and the next 3 or 4, I'm going to read a statement and then it'll always be in our episode notes.
Yes.
And assuming there are no issues after that time period, hopefully we'll be fully, why am I not thinking of the word? Accredited is not the right term.
Certified?
Fully certified with the Creator Accountability Network. So I'm going to read their prepared statement just because I want to make sure I hit all of the exact points that I need to. So we're excited to announce that we've joined the Creator Accountability Network. CAN is a nonprofit dedicated to reducing harassment and abuse through ethical education and a system of restorative accountability. We join because we care about the safety and well-being of our community members. If you feel our behavior or content has harmed someone, please report it to CAN, either via the reporting form on their website, creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, or via their hotline at 617-249-4255. They'll help us make it right and avoid repeating that mistake in the future. CAN also needs volunteers from our communities to help with their process. So if you have skills you think would be helpful or time and a desire to help, please visit their website to find out how you can volunteer. Most importantly, get the word out to other creators who you think would be interested in getting credentialed. Help us build safer communities together. So,
yay!
That is like clearly a written statement, but we fully stand behind it. I will just say, everybody we dealt with at CAN was so wonderful.
So nice.
And like in our final training, I feel like we went into podcast mode because they go through these scenarios and you and I were like talking it out and like getting into the details. And our trainer was like, most people don't talk that much, but like
it's all good. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So everybody was lovely. So truly, it's about making things better. So like, if we have said anything or ever do, we truly want you to reach out. And if most of the people there are like the people we dealt with, they will be absolutely lovely in supporting you in.
It's not about us like getting the result that's best for us. The whole point of this is to make sure that we help foster like a real spirit of empathy in the community. So that way people feel comfortable bringing up issues that we have as podcasters. Because remember, like we might have been doing this for, a couple years now, but that doesn't mean that we are like these seasoned pros or anything. We're still a small podcast and we need all the help we can get to grow. And one of those ways I think is truly like making people feel safe and secure in criticizing us so we can get better at what we do.
So we are super excited. Definitely like also, if you're interested in volunteering, like check it out. Like I said, they are lovely. And another reason we wanted to do this is because we believe so much in what they're doing. So
100%.
If you listen to similar podcasts, the hosts might not even know that they exist. So
true. Or the hosts might also be a part of the CAN network, but you just don't know it.
True.
You know?
Yeah. So it doesn't hurt to let people know about the service that they're providing.
Nope, not at all.
So you'll hear this 3 or 4 more times. And
But please, if you dislike hearing the big old disclaimer speech at the top of the episode, please don't just wait a couple of episodes to check back in to see if it's all over. Please listen to the upcoming episodes.
It's not that long. I mean, like...
It was kind of long.
It's kind of long.
But it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. It's a short thing.
It's a short thing. And we're going to try to keep the rest of this short too. So let's see. Pops, how has the move gone?
The move has been kind of good. It's honestly like I could complain a lot about a lot. Like the reno took forever.
Not
reno
all
people
of,
perfectly nice.
Not all of the reno.
No, certain parts of the reno, fine. To be fair, yes, certain parts of the reno took forever, but it just we have a house that our boys, Reader and Go, have already expressed how much they enjoy living in. They love the neighborhood. We just went to meet the teachers for their new school today. School starts officially tomorrow. There's just so much to be happy for that I just kind of feel I feel like I shouldn't complain at all.
Okay, but we have to complain.
And we've had so much support from our parents.
Oh my God.
In getting everything sort of situated, and the boys are happy. It's like, What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, we have to complain a little bit, or what I'm going to talk about will have no meaning. So,
okay.
Here's a question. Did this move feel harder than when we moved
yes.
out? Okay. interesting because I feel like that one, we were going such a longer distance. And I thought maybe it just felt like that to me because you were the only one. Like I went straight to work when we moved out of the country. So like you were left alone to deal with almost everything.
Right.
But yeah, this one felt much harder. Do you think that's because
Bro, we slept on the floor of our sunroom for a couple of days.
So, yeah. So do you think the difference is that when we moved out of the country, the boys immediately went into school?
Maybe. That might, to get them out of the house.
Yeah.
That might have been it a little bit. Because I had more time to myself.
Yep.
Maybe. I don't know. That's a very good point.
So,
but I've loved having them be a part of this process, like for them to see from like the inside out, like the workings of something big like this, I think is a good thing for them because then moving forward, they'll be able to use that as a reference point to have like increasingly mature reactions and like sort of predictive responses when we do something big in the future, right?
Yeah.
Big trips, or even if it's just like a big international vacation or something like that. They've been on one of those and now they've both done a big international move at ages where they would both remember the ins and outs. Because the last time, Go was so young.
Yeah, because one, they went straight into school, which helped give us time.
And Go was in like not even preschool.
Oh,
Go
no, he wasn't.
Like
yeah,
daycare.
He wasn't daycare.
He was in daycare.
I also feel like they just had less opinions, or maybe they didn't have less opinions, but they definitely had.
No, they just didn't know how to elucidate them.
Yeah, which is another. I am glad they are older and can communicate more directly, but it also makes it even more intense with like 4 people's competing needs.
Well, also older kids having deeper roots where we were, and then having to move away. Like there's more emotion. It's a more complicated series of psychological situations, decisions, actions, reactions. It's more complicated. It was a harder move.
Yeah.
I am drained. I've been drained for months. I'm ready for it to be over. And it's not going to be over for a while.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
So
that's okay too.
Just to give a little idea. So because I was finishing up work, Pops was amazing and basically planned all the details of the move. We had an amazing plan in place where we were going to get to our new city, have an Airbnb for a few days. Then we were going to have cleaners come into the new house. We had our mover set to help us unpack. It was a very fantastic plan. And then
none of it happened.
So
not a one.
The big thing that happened is we decided to have the bedroom floors redone. And when we decided to do it, I checked to make sure they would be done by move-in and said, if they're not going to be done by move-in, it's not worth it. But a lot of things happened. And they were not done by move-in. And they were not done until, as I've been saying, what is space and time? A week? 2 weeks after our stuff arrived?
Yeah.
I'm going to say 2 weeks for drama.
2 weeks.
So
2 weeks. No, it was 2 weeks. Yeah.
It was having to do with like humidity and labor shortages and just like a ton of stuff. So as you can imagine, it is extremely difficult to move into a house without floors. You can't do it.
Well, no, that's not the upstairs.
Yeah,
the bedrooms were being redone.
Without bedroom
floors. The living
floors.
room and the sunroom, which are large adjacent spaces, housed like all of the boxes that were to go upstairs and some of the furniture.
Yes.
And we were able, luckily, to carve out enough space to put down mattresses and dress them. And we were able to, as a family, sort of camp out in the downstairs.
But we couldn't
We were very fortunate.
We were.
But we couldn't put furniture or boxes or anything on those floors. Upstairs, for 2 weeks, and it was kind of whack.
And we couldn't get cleaners in, and the house was...
Oh, and we have 3 cats.
And we have 3...
Did we mention we have 3 cats?
We had to keep locked in a room because we couldn't have them walking... Right, because like during the move, they needed to be locked different places while we were in transit, and then they couldn't...
They're out and recovering. Don't worry, the cats are fine.
The cats are more psychologically sound than I ever would have imagined.
They're better than I am right now.
Yeah.
I think I should take a cue from them.
And so, obviously, first world problems. My mom was out during the initial move to like hang with the kids while the movers arrived, while we did so much. Then your folks were out and like completely redid our garden with us. Your dad scraped old glue off every one of our stairs, which took 4+ hours.
We discovered that the previous owners were psychopaths.
They were not psychopaths.
There were stickers stuck to the inside of the washing machine. I found a house key in the trap in the washing machine. We found a family photo of one of their children between the washer and dryer.
Oh, did we?
There was like dystopian graffiti by their 3rd grader written inside one of the medicine cabinets. I reject this. They were chaos agents.
Well,
the yard looked like it looked like a zombie apocalypse was in full bloom and nobody had touched it for months. There were more thistle in that backyard than blades of grass.
Yeah. So
it was whack. But it's better now, and we have a wonderful house. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
We're healthy. We're strong.
But it was hard. And everybody had to deal with times where what they were expecting didn't happen. And I think some of my hardest moments were just feeling like we made a plan for this to make
and we can't use the plan.
And we can't use I think my lowest point, because it's like we had planned to have cleaners in.
Oh, cleaning the walls, the hair off of the walls.
Yeah.
You kidding me? They're not chaos agents. There was hair glued to the walls, and you're going to sit there and say they weren't chaos agents?
And let me say, this is a lovely house.
It's a beautiful house.
So we're very happy where we are, but there were some things.
We had to work for it.
And that day where I realized that there was no way we could wait for cleaners to come, that I just had to scrub all of the shelves and walls in the laundry room myself was probably my lowest point, because it was just a job that I had not. I mean, I do lots of cleaning. At one of my old jobs during COVID, I just started cleaning all the bathrooms because it had to be done. So I'm not adverse to rolling my sleeves up, but
no,
it was just something I had hoped not to have to do this time around. And when I realized it was going to be me, I had a hard morning. But
yes, you did.
But the reason, one, I just wanted to give everybody an update of what our lives have been like.
Yeah.
And the boys have been doing...
They're back at swimming.
Which is great.
They can finally do swimming lessons again, and they loved it, and they're blossoming. They've discovered bouldering. They've discovered rock climbing.
Yeah, there's a rock...
And then the Olympics happened, and we got to watch Olympic speed climbing and bouldering.
Oh man, I feel like
very cool.
The whole thing around rock climbing, that's got to be that's probably the next episode. But yeah, there's a rock climbing place by us, and they had never done it before, and just
fell in love,
adored it from the jump. So so they've been hanging in there. I think they were. I think when it really went a long time and we couldn't unpack any of their stuff, that was probably the hardest point for them, where it's they still didn't have any of their toys out, and, Go didn't have any of his costumes out for pretend play. And at least by my read, I feel like that was the hardest time. And then when your folks were out, when the floors were finally done, we focused on getting their room set up first. And when they could finally see sort of some of their things and
their mood shifted.
Yeah.
And then we were able to get their the sheets on their beds. Finally found sheets so they weren't using freaking king mattress sheets wrapped double around twin beds. It was just we've had some serious wins. And I think that it does the whole situation a disservice to characterize it as absolute chaos.
Well, no.
We have done a great job as a team. We have reframed our expectations admirably, I think, and we've pivoted really well as needed. We've taken, new information and processed it quickly and come up with different plans of attack. And now here we are, like the kids are ready to start school, and we kind of have it all under control.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have, and I think the thing I want to talk about is I feel like, despite it feeling really hard, I think we have done really well.
Yeah,
and it made me think, because I do listen to a lot of Christian creators and like try to follow people on social media, and one of the things I think about a lot with those creators is how much the value of Christianity is put forward as a coping mechanism. So like, I was able to get through this hard time because I had religion.
Right.
When things got hard, Jesus carried me, or
Jesus take the wheel, bruh. Jesus take the wheel.
Indeed. And I, like we say, like, as long as you're not using your religion to hurt people, if that helps you,
yeah.
Nothing against it. But I do think it's easy to see all of that. And if you're having a hard time coping, maybe think that that's a necessary way of dealing with things. But I just wanted to bring it up because I really felt like over the last couple of years, like we've both done some really hard work.
Right.
And in this move, it was really hard. And like, I sort of felt like I saw it paying off.
Okay.
Because,
please explain.
I mean, it's sad because I had to leave her, but towards the end of the time before the move, I finally found a therapist who was really great.
Got it.
And between that and other things I had read, I think it was a mix of that and like, I do this exercise program called Mama Strong that just does a lot of amazing, like just a lot of the lessons that they talk about sort of how to deal with hard times, I think are sort of generally applicable. And also, I don't know what else really. I think it was partially the therapist and partially the reason I reached out to get a therapist is just because I had come away from a really hard work situation. And it wasn't until I got into the job that I just left that I realized, that had, like, I had been blaming a lot of my emotional stress and other things on that work situation. And I think it did create a lot of things and exacerbate a lot of things. But once I had been at my new job a while, like I still felt like I was dealing with a lot. And there's a cat next to me.
Yeah,
which is
in true podcast.
Which is going to be
fashion. We have a cat.
A new paradigm now that we can let our cats in our office. But it just made me get really serious, because it's like I had gotten away from the bad situation, but
right.
I was still dealing with all of those emotional issues. And I think it just made me more serious than I'd ever been about dealing with them. And
good.
And so it was really funny. On my last session with my therapist, I kind of asked her, I don't think I'm going to get a new therapist right away, but I definitely might at some point. And so I kind of asked her what I should be thinking about. And it was really sobering because she talked about like all the things that I could look for that she had done with me that were helpful. And then she's like, and this stuff I sort of started to push and it felt tense and I knew we didn't have a lot of time. So like, I didn't get into it. So maybe at some point you'd like to look into that. And I was like, well, that is incredibly honest. And you're probably right about that. So that was sobering. But a lot of what she did was just sort of like say back to me the things I was saying to her. So I could really hear myself. And I think I just learned a lot of skills from that because I think I did do a better job not catastrophizing things
Right.
in this hard time. Because I could say, like tons of negative thoughts could come and I could be like, all right, yeah, things are hard right now. You're upset about this in this moment, but like, this isn't going to be forever.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's like the mantra for the move.
Yeah.
It's going to end eventually.
And we kept being wrong about that date.
Right. But we're not wrong about the eventuality. Like eventually all the boxes will be opened. But all the things will be put away eventually.
Yeah. But I think probably the biggest thing is I think, from that hard job and just a lot of other things, I had really started to think of myself as an anxious person.
Okay.
And it was really through talking with someone that I realized I deal with a lot of anxiety, but that labeling myself that way is actually really inaccurate. And that, because like I think about this podcast, like I realized I wanted to do it and I knew I didn't have all the skills and it wouldn't be perfect when we started, but we just did it. And I didn't, like I had the bravery to do that. And there are lots of situations in which I can do that. And so to realize that it was like, this is something I deal with, but it doesn't have to define me was incredibly helpful. I don't know. So I just think, there are a lot of ways to grow as a person. And I just feel like I've reached a place where I can really say like, I'm not perfect and I have a really hard time a lot of the time. But I think I've done enough work to really believe that like religion helps a lot of people and it's great if it does, but it by no means has cornered the market on comfort or solace or coping. That is something that there are a lot of different paths to find. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about this time.
Yeah, I think that challenges like the ones that we're facing are really great litmus tests for how effective whatever coping mechanisms you've come up with are. Because it's not life or death. Mm-hmm. Nothing we're coping with is life or death. But it is a series of misunderstandings, miscommunications, annoyances, aggravations, grievances, all of which can sum up to something that will drive a person to drink. But that hasn't happened with us. When I drink, it's because I want to.
Indeed.
But you have an opportunity. And, we've both had our low points. I had one the other day. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it has to do with for me personally, my expectations that I laid out that I then accepted were unreasonable for my return to creative work. And that I just haven't had the bandwidth to get back into the swing of things with writing. And I'm looking forward to the boys being in school, sure. But I'm also looking forward to us having a rhythm of getting through the unpacking process and feeling like we're actually settling into the house. And it doesn't have to be this mad sprint. And I don't want it to be a mad sprint. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a gradual thing, a little bit every day. But now that a lot of the entry-level logistics have been handled, we can allow ourselves to settle into a routine. And this would be the case even if we'd been living here our entire lives and we hadn't just moved, that any number of things could have come up in life that would have upended a routine. And so what I'm looking at this as is an opportunity to practice my, neuroplasticity, my flexibility, mm-hmm. in my ability to assimilate information, come up with better solutions so that as a situation repeats itself in terms of like an aggravation or whatever, I don't fall victim to a sort of like a negative knee-jerk response. I can reframe it in a way that allows me to be productive. And skepticism, like I have very happy that I left magical thinking and now practice skepticism more consistently. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I don't think anybody's perfect, but more consistently in my life, because what that's let me do is happily encounter all these situations and have problems crop up repeatedly. And that I'm not beholden to repeat a response if the response wasn't productive. And that I'm now much better at taking in all of this data and sifting through it and seeing, where do my beliefs intersect with the reality of the situation, and which is borne out to be correct. Like, I've had to let go of some of those beliefs, and in realizing that some of them were self-limiting, not because they were negative beliefs, they were actually positive beliefs and goals, but they were limiting my ability to function in the way that my family needed me to function. And so I had to let go of them for the time being and not necessarily reframe my priorities, but just shift the soft deadlines I had given myself for those creative goals, because they're still there. It isn't like I'm letting go of them completely. It's that I just had, let's say, bigger fish to fry. Mm-hmm. And some people might be really good at that, but it's something that I had to work really hard at. So back to what you said before about having to scrap the last bunch of months, like year and a half or whatever, on our sort of wellness, psychological fortitude, all that jazz. It really has helped. It's been great. I'm sitting here looking at like all this work we have to do, and I'm psyched to get to it. And I'm looking forward to having my some sort of return to a writing routine tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's great. Like, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. I know we have to wrap it up soon. I was listening, clearly I have not had time to take notes for this, but I listened to 2 different Christian dad podcasts, and I can't remember which one, but I'll find the episode. And it's been interesting because it's a creator where, like I've said before, I'm not particularly interested in listening to people who are like just completely awful. I'd much rather listen to people where there's some commonality, and so
tell us what you really think, moms.
Yeah. And so it's a creator where he's he's not doing all bad stuff. Like, he's encouraging dads to be more active fathers and to take that seriously. I mean, he's doing a dad podcast, right? So there's some good stuff there. But, and just it makes me so mad that this is during the move, because I think it's the same guy. He did one about critical thinking and how religion plays into it. And it was such a weird take. And I was listening to it while doing other things. And I was just with the move, and I was just I wish I could just focus on this, because I feel like there's something really interesting to get into about how weirdly bad this argument is, how you need to be a critical thinker, but it must all rely on God. Anyways, I might go back and listen to it, and maybe we'll talk about it. But he recently did one about how you have to be careful during the good times, because everybody turns to God when they're having a rough patch, but then people fall away when times are good. And I was just thinking about it in the context of all of this, because I think one thing I find interesting is so much in religion, you can kind of correlate to other things. I think for a lot of people, praying isn't that different than meditation is to other folks, right? You can see how taking time to calm your brain and contemplate is a good thing, right? And I think there's a version of what he was saying that could correlate, because obviously, if you've found things that are helping your mental wellness, if you go through a really good patch, it would be easy to not be as careful about keeping up with them. Or like another thing I could see is like, I think a lot of people, if you go through a really good patch, one thing I think you have to be careful about is like your empathy. Like when things, I mean, you just like see this all the time with people. Like when things are going really well for you, I think we as humans have a really easy time attributing all of that to ourselves and not just to like circumstances. So I think there are definitely like things to think about during good times, like, you know, remembering to keep up with things that are helping you, remembering to have empathy for people who are not going through good times. And so I was kind of listening for some of that because he often touches on more universal themes. But, and again, I was listening while doing move stuff. So like maybe I'm not doing the best summary of it, but it actually wasn't any of that. It was really like, because it's easy to go back to sinning. And I just felt like, I don't know, like I just, having been through all of this and like thinking about this, I was like, oh man, I'm glad that's not an extra thing on my plate. That actually feels like the opposite of comfort. And you know what? Like, there isn't a corollary to that in my life. And I think I feel really happy about that.
Yeah.
It was just a moment of like, most of these things I feel like are just like different edges of an experience I already have. And that is one where I was like, yeah, you know, man, I'm just thankful. That doesn't really seem, I don't really have a positive corollary to that. It's like the whole sexual purity thing. Like, yeah, I'm just glad I don't have to feel like terribly shameful about a natural part of my life. So anyways, it was kind of interesting.
I mean, in a sense, I get why we would need to keep talking about that. But in another, I just really wish that we never again had to bring up how religion doesn't have the final say on how we should view ourselves as whole or broken.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the good work that I've done on myself has been 100% secular. There hasn't been a moment where I've felt spiritual, where I felt like I'm getting deeper in touch with my soul, or the ocean of consciousness that David Lynch talks about with his transcendental meditation, or anything remotely close to any of that. But I feel more grounded, secure, grateful, and empathetic than I have probably in my entire life. So I don't need like it isn't that it's unwelcome.
Yeah.
Like the skeptic in me says, if it is indeed a better way, then I will embrace it. But I've tried it. I continue because of what we do and my vehement dislike for the authoritarian versions of religions. I am informed about the varieties of religions, about the more progressive sides of Christianity in particular, if we're going to talk about that, about universal Unitarianism. We had a officiant at our wedding. So like, I get it. And it is definitely more empathetic and humanist. In that, the political and cultural views between us and somebody and like a UU or a progressive Christian, there may be zero daylight between us. And that's fine too. But when it comes to you have a soul that needs support, or you are broken in some way and need fixing, neither of those versions are things that I can look at, investigate, and say, yes, I definitely need to do that. That will definitely make me better. Because I don't feel broken. I feel whole. I look for and find no soul. My brain working better makes my mind and my consciousness better at dealing with reality. If it exists, it is indistinguishable from what I view as no soul and how I apply my mind to the world around me. And so if it does exist, it then, for me at least, has no utility. If it does have an actual utility, that is yet to be demonstrated to me. But I have no way of seeing it as existing through that utility. Just like I wouldn't necessarily think that the Christian God exists because sunsets are pretty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, the eye is complex. Like I don't need. So here we are with this podcast of ours after a hiatus, talking about what maybe why are podcasts like this one useful? And I think that it really comes down to that. It's not just about saying religion is bad, can be harmful. Some religious folks are definitely allies. I would argue, given where we live, a lot of religious folks are allies, right?
Oh, yeah. The church nearest to us has a huge LGBTQIA pride flag out front and a Black Lives Matter.
I think 24/7. Yeah. And so it's not about that. It's about me, brass tacks, human being, moist robot. What does thinking that I have a soul, how does that improve my life? How does it improve my relationships? How does it improve my senses' collective ability to discern phenomena and create models of behavior that can help me successfully navigate this universe? I need to see the utility first before I can start to say, okay, maybe I should start thinking that this thing is real, because you can make a predictive model around that thing and you could start to maybe pinpoint it. Like we're able to see, gravitational phenomena says that planet should be there. And then we point a telescope where the planet should be and we find the planet. I'm looking for that with a soul. It might be asking too much, but I can't, the skeptic in me has a hard time separating that need, that empirical need, from the reality of the situation, which is some people use this thing that they can't really define, that they can't really ever demonstrate to outgroup people. And I don't care how many people agree with me socially and politically or culturally, and also think that thing exists, but then have a different utility and a different view of it. Then it just becomes like a cudgel that one side is using against the other. Who is right? I don't know. So, So we need podcasts like ours, I think, is what I'm saying, because we need to continue to have the conversation, because there are no answers and there may never will be.
Well,
we perpetually be searching.
I'm so glad you said that, because I hadn't framed it in that context at all. But I feel like everything that has helped me has actually been moving away from magical thinking and getting closer to reality. So everything I didn't frame it in my own head this way, but everything that's helped me has been being more clear-eyed about the stories I'm telling myself versus what's really going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of my anxiety really did more fall into a category of magical thinking, because the way my brain works, it was if I'm not actively being worried about this thing, then the bad thing is going to happen, which is clearly not how the universe actually works. I can tell you that's not how the universe works.
Yeah, but thankfully,
that's how it works in my brain. And so much of what was helpful was finding tools to get out of that very kind of scary type of magical thinking.
Well, that's skepticism 101, right? Like the first thing that you should question is my belief about X correct? Like just idly, you should question, I think. You shouldn't spend like all your time on it, but you should question what you believe to be true, because our understanding of ourselves and the universe continue to grow and evolve. And it behooves us as skeptics, as secular folks, mostly, I guess, on this podcast, and as parents, caregivers, that the people in our charge deserve that we be at our best.
Yeah.
And part of that is if you have a broken heuristic, if you have an incorrect belief, then it's up to you to figure it out and to fix it. And if you use religion to do that and you end up with a positive result that improves the lives of the children in your care, then that's good because that's what they deserve. But if you can do it in a way that doesn't potentially lead you to accept other beliefs as true, that might not necessarily be able to be justified, that might then lead to negative actions, then you're sort of back to square one. You sort of have kicked the can down the road instead of maybe looking hard enough at what it is that you believe to then release yourself from not just the self-limiting stuff, but from the beliefs that you find comfortable. Because how you were living your life, there was a certain rhythm to it. Mm-hmm. There was a comfort in that rhythm, even though that rhythm involved anxiety. It's weird, but that's kind of how people are. Yeah. Like you were used to it and you relied on that rhythm. But in breaking it, there was anxiety. But on the other side of it, you now have less anxiety because you have taken the time to work through it, to push through it and break down the wall. And now you see that there literally is a world beyond the wall that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Which is so impressive. And I wish more people would do it. Yay, moms.
Baby steps.
Inspire me. Baby steps.
All right. We have to build a bookcase. Or you have to cook dinner. We got to do so much.
No, I have to put potatoes in the oven. Then we're going to build a bookcase.
Got it. All right. So we have to thank Jonathan Zalbin and First Frame Music for the music for this podcast.
And that wraps up this lively episode of Family Skeptical, where nothing is sacred except for our kids.
And you know what, babe?
What?
I think it caught one of Kiki's "I'm going to throw up" meows. I'll have to see when I edit.
That's lovely.
Yeah. If it does, I'll let people know the time mark so they can enjoy it.
Love it.
All right. Bye.